Welcome back. Acquisition teams across government are examining the methods they use to get what they needed quickly during the pandemic. The task is to apply the speed the pandemic drove to everyday acquisitions when there isn't a pandemic. Joe Jordan is CEO at Actuparo. He's former administrator of federal procurement policy. Joe, I quote Andrew Journell, who is the Food and Drug Administration's Director of Information Technology Acquisitions through Federal News Network. There's a new level of expectation. You guys did an acquisition in a month during the pandemic. Now you're going to tell me it takes 9 months. Are we finally at the point where people are just not going to put up with it anymore because they know it doesn't have to work that way?
I hope so. I think it's a totally fair question and point. I think what we saw during the pandemic, whether it was PPE at the beginning or the vaccine creation and distribution that runs through today is really an excellent example of when you have clear requirements, when you have everybody working together, when you buy solutions, not just try to guess at what you're going to need, you can really get some amazing results, get high quality products and services quickly.
To the point of trying to eliminate some of those things that people think they have to do. Dan Gordon started Mythbusters when he was OFPP administrator before you. You continued it. Is it maybe time to revive that campaign or some campaign to remind CEOs that they don't have to do all the things that they seem to think they have to do?
You know, Francis, you've got my heart aflutter when you talk about Mythbusters. I really appreciate that. I think, you know, whether it's just people going back and reading what was in there, there were 3 different ones that came out, or whether it's a refresh of some of those by, you know, the current team. Either way, it's great. Yeah, those were all geared around. There was one set of myth busting done towards government folks. Again, all saying, here's how you can go out and do innovative things. You can take risks. It's good. It's okay. And then a whole set aimed towards industry, to your point about, look, guys, you know, it's not about the government imposing all of these unnecessary rules. It's about a regulatory framework that's required by the law. And so make sure you operate within that. But here's all these other things you can do to help everybody move quickly. And so I think Mythbusters is a great idea. And then also, we've seen great reliance on improved data and technology tools, and we really want to continue that as well.
The benefit to the continuity there, too, is that the acting administrator of federal procurement policy right now has been there for a while, and she knows very well what she's doing. Leslie Field was your deputy, Dan's deputy, when she was there, when you were both there. So that body of knowledge, that repository of information already exists, doesn't it, Joe? It's there to be disseminated again.
You're absolutely right, Francis. I mean, that's what's so great about the Office of Federal Procurement Policies. And I'll just speak to my own experience, not for Dan or Ann or Mike Wooten, but, you know, Leslie, Matthew, and Joni, I mean, they're 99% of, along with all of the great team underneath them, but 99% of the leadership of that office, like, we who step in and help from the political appointee standpoint can maybe, you know, talk in a different way to political leadership in the White House. But in terms of that real institutional knowledge and desire to see things improve, they're the best. And so, yes, I think there's no need to wait on something like this, which isn't going to have, you know, a Republican or a Democratic point of view. Everyone wants these sorts of improvements. And I think it's great. You know, one other thing from the vaccine pandemic purchasing it's great is you saw an example of, you know, long-term established pharma players and newer pharma players being part of, you know, kind of the big 3 in domestic vaccine production. And that's the type of thing when I talk about businesses in any goods or services industry. Yes, you're going to have the typical, you know, large beltway contractors, and you're going to have some innovative small businesses, and neither one is right or wrong, but having that mix is great.
How much of this then is incumbent on industry to say to the contracting officers that they're dealing with, here's a way that you could do it, still do what you meet all the marks that you need to meet, and do this in a month instead of 9 months?
Yeah, there's definitely a piece of this that's on industry to communicate those sorts of things to their government and agency partners. I think, you know, from an industry point of view, you want to make sure you've got that trusted relationship. Sometimes you can be skittish on, hey, if I go, tell my agency or potential customer, here's how you can do things. Well, they might just take that idea and go to one of my competitors to execute it. So, you got to move past that. And just like you said, have that free-flowing, trust-based dialogue around solutions, and you can do great things. And there's no reason that can't be the norm. There's no reason it has to be, something that only happens in response to a global pandemic. And I really hope that, what we've seen here is, the catalyst for that sort of mindset and the foundation for those sorts of policies and procedures.
All right, back to inside the agencies, Joe. What changes the culture? How much of it should be collaborative, and how much of it should be orders from the top down? We're just going to do it this way from now on.
So what changes the culture is incentives. We don't have the proper incentives to get everyone on an acquisition team or in the acquisition ecosystem to really want to move quickly and to embrace innovative techniques, because there's not a lot of upside if you do that, and there's risk of a GAO or IG report saying you did things wrong if you do. And so I think that's the biggest thing. And where leadership plays a role isn't in that directive top-down, this is how we're going to do it, but in a more supportive and positive, look, guys, I want you to take risks. I want you to embrace innovation. We are going to set these bold goals for speed and quality, but when things go wrong, which sometimes they will, I'll take the bullet. I'll go to the hill. I'll sit down with the IG and explain why we're doing this. Don't worry. We'll lift you up for the positives, and I'll be your shield for kind of the slings and arrows that will come from the typical oversight folks. And I think then you will get that kind of cross-functional, cross-agency, cross-departmental effort.
Joe Jordan, thanks very much as always. Great to see you again.
Thanks for having me, Francis.